So how do you start a podcast?
I think you just put a song in front of it, like da 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 da.
Someone asked ChatGPT, what's the best way to intro a podcast, right? If cybercrime was an economy, it's the third largest economy in the world, behind the GDP of USA and China. That's what we're going to talk about today. You're the cyber expert here. Mm-hmm. You're Bobbi.
I'm Bobbi.
I'm Dipak. Bobbi, I've got a fact here from the internet.
Yeah.
95% of breaches start with human error. And that's not a statistic according to the old internet. It's a condemnation. Can't even say the word. That's how important it is.
It's true. The breaches, they wouldn't exist unless people were causing them to exist in the first place.
So then I picked up another stat the other day, right, that the third largest economy in the world is cybercrime. Something like $3 trillion are taken out of the global economy through cyber threat. And yet, if you look at that 95% stat, 100% of the time, it's down to human beings, and not the BFG. Have you read the BFG? Human beings. And the companies that they work for combining to make sure that they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Why is it human beings? Well, what is it that the combination of people and companies, how are they not stopping this?
Unless you've got a focus and a priority on cyber threat, then this is why humans are causing the problem. Because if we're not looking at it or putting measures in place to look at cyber threat, understand what it means, how do we address it, then it's not going to get the priority it needs. So therefore, it's a risk and it's a threat.
All right, so let's dive under, right? So you said something that's sticking in my head about it's not a priority. So let me step away. I'm not an architect. I'm by no means a cyber specialist. My game is control and fixing things.
Yeah.
So if we look at the business as a home,
right?
A home has vulnerabilities. If you made a home out of nothing but walls that were made of titanium that didn't let any light in, you're probably going to be pretty secure. But we can't run a business like that.
No.
Right? You've got to be able to open doors to allow data flowing in and out, in this analogy. Then you need some windows because you need to look in and out so that, they're not necessarily opening doors, but you've still got to have a visibility into your company, your data. So those are your endpoints or your transition points or the way things, data and people can move in and out of your business.
Yeah.
If you were at home and there was somebody, or maybe several somebodies, constantly banging on your windows and doors, you'd call the police, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Because it's a physical thing. You can see it. Everyone's aware of it.
So I'm going to ask you to hold on to one thought because I want to finish this amazing analogy that I'm about to write a book on. So you said taught. Hold on to taught for me, right? So you're qualifying that this home analogy, people are banging away, you're taught how to deal with that, you probably call the police. It is not right for people to stand at your front door and day and night keep banging on it. But yet, if that building is a business and cyber criminals or potential cyber criminals are constantly attacking your door and your windows and gently tapping them or throwing bricks at them, there is no version of policing that, or there's no one you can call to say someone's banging on my window of the business, because that's not a crime, is it? Constantly trying to breach somebody isn't a crime.
Well, yeah, it's not as straightforward, I suppose. It doesn't have the same procedures as a physical person banging on your door, right? There's certain regulations that we comply against to make sure that we understand this threat whenever it occurs. But the reality is when it occurs, it's usually down to individual companies or people to deal with that matter in however way they see fit at the time. And that can be proactive, it can be reactive, it just depends on who is addressing it at the time. Okay.
So I'm going to keep drawing you back because I'm writing this book in my head now, right? So if you've got, you said compliance in amongst there, or you've built your house out of bricks, that's the compliant thing. You built your business out of strong walls. You've got your door that's got 5-lever lock mortise. I don't work for Mortise. Is Mortise a company? I don't know if Mortise is a company. Six, there you go. Yeah. So you've got all your power locks and you've got your house alarm. You can see things happening. But if we go back to that opening stat, 95%, I bet you it's probably 100%, they just made it up. The internet makes up everything, right? 95% are down to human error. So does that mean that at some point someone's gently tapping on the window and then somebody forgets themselves and just opens the window and go, hi, can I help you? And then suddenly breach.
Humans are humans. None of us are perfect, right? Human error. Yeah, we all make mistakes.
Are we not going to dwell on none of them are perfect?
No, we don't need to dwell on them, but when they're costing millions of pounds in breach, then there's a problem. Whether that is a physical act of clicking on something or whether that's a different way, you know, that maybe what we've put in place isn't quite fit for purpose in terms of how we deal with things. People create the strategy.
Okay.
And then they implement it.
Because you're throwing some big words out to my simplistic head. So you talk about teaching or the taught thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about strategy, we're talking about compliance. But I want to pick your brain a bit more around. So if people are the problem, and you said something earlier around how the business needs to be aware and teach. So are all business missing something? Is there something that we're fundamentally not doing as business owners that isn't allowing that level, that threshold of knowledge to be at the right level? What have you seen in your journey?
We need to build a business or put things in place that makes protecting the job that we're in and the environment we're in easier, right? It shouldn't be a constant struggle to secure things or keep the business safe. The problem is when it's an afterthought. So if you make that afterthought, then it is an afterthought, and that's when you see it turning into threats or vulnerabilities or attacks. This has to be something that is built into the way that we do things, that causes minimal impact on the other people that are doing it.
Right.
So, for example, if you put procedures in place so that, you know, when things were, say, built in an environment, they were built in a way that was secure to begin with, it keeps everyone happy. You know, it keeps the cyber team happy, it keeps the people that manage the applications happy because they're still getting to do what they need to do, but it's built in a fashion that makes it secure. However, when you're trying to reverse it and put it back to say, okay, this isn't secure, we need to make it secure, people don't see the value in that because if it was that important, it would have been done to begin with, not after.
See, and I was drawing pictures as you were describing there, so I've had to throw away my house analogy book now.
It's no longer a house.
It can't be, because I think what you're describing in there is that we need to build our people in a way where their priority is cybersecurity first. And
don't get me wrong, some people that will never be a full priority, right? Because some people are just not built in that way where they think, you know, if you're doing a marketing position or whatever, right, your priority might not be cybersecurity.
Right.
The last thing on their mind is dealing with the cybersecurity side of it or making things secure. But it should be a thought there, and it should be built in to a way that keeps it secure anyway. So we don't want to make people have to become the cyber experts, but we want people to be aware of what it means and how to address it and how to keep themselves and the business safe. So yeah.
I'm with you, right? No one needs to be a cyber expert. No. Some people do. You are. I'm not. That's fair. But yet, you know, we teach ourselves to read and write. We teach ourselves the basics of mathematics. The idea being, sticking with your people analogy, that if we recognize that all businesses are technology businesses, unless you're actually cutting wood and you're a carpenter. There's very few businesses. So, you know, famous grocery chains are not grocery chains, they're technology businesses that put grocery on the shelves. Yeah. Famous logistic businesses are actually technology businesses that move product across the world. Yeah. Whatever you do, whether you're a small business or a large business, if you just took technology away, could you function?
No.
So then if the answer is no, then that means your number one priority is to secure the technology. And therefore all your people that you're building need to understand at a basic level how to read, write, and mathematicalize cybersecurity. You can Google that word. I'll add it to Wikipedia. It'll be there in a minute. But you need to know the fundamentals of what's the things I shouldn't be doing and what I should do.
Yeah, it's true.
So build that person for me. What is that person supposed to know about cyber threat?
The person is supposed to be able to go about their daily life, their daily job, do whatever they need to do on an operational basis. But they have to be aware of the things that they do and how it can impact. So if you get a suspicious email, and this is probably going back to the statistic you spoke about, phishing attacks, yeah? What is something suspicious? What is a spam email, you know? And I think you just have to be very careful about, you know, if something seems a bit strange, or not even that, sometimes it's your intuition. Your intuition can tell you something's a little bit off, something doesn't feel right here. You just need to challenge that and be a little bit more proactive in the detail. Yeah. Everyone's detailed in their jobs, you know? Everyone can be very detailed. It's not as if you're incapable of looking at detail. I think sometimes people don't understand the impact it can have. So it's like, yeah, okay, this is important, but if I click on that, it's not the end of the world, right? But the impact can be quite severe. It's just that we don't put that back on people. You know, we even go back and say, well, this has happened, it's caused this. It's all done at the site, you know, it's all done in the cyberspace where you're having to fight the fire and you're having to deal with it. The repercussions can be huge, and that's why when you do like phishing simulations and things like that, a lot of the time it's the level of people that are clicking on phishing emails is high within organisations, and that's why you have to constantly test again and test again and test again. But what you always find is the level is still quite high, and it'll drop, and then it's high again, and it'll drop.
So somewhere in that, you're making me scared that, which I suppose is right, that the assumption is that if something comes by email, you should probably always be suspicious 100% of the time. And unless you expected the email, then be in that position. But then how do you get that knowledge across to? Because you've quite rightly painted this picture of a scary world where, you know, because you did a campaign for 5 minutes twice in the year, for that 10 minutes after it, you know, people are a little bit more aware, then they forget, they go back to their day job. But yet, if the cyber breach happens, they're probably not going to have a day job to go back to, are they?
No, depending on the severity of it, yeah. And don't get me wrong, businesses are set up, usually, with mechanisms to make sure that even when these things happen, it's captured, it's understood. You know, it's set up in a way that, you know, if phishing attempts happen, there's ways we can stop that becoming a problem. Yeah, there's mitigations we can put in place from a technology perspective and a cyber perspective to say we're going to help stop this. However, that's not always the case, and depending on the way it goes, it can become nasty.
Yeah, and I think we'll come back to that, because in the older Google search, that was one of the hot topics for later. But I want to keep picking your brain on this. You gave me an idea for a thought, that if people aren't educated enough or aware enough of how much of a priority cyber threat is in this world today, given that we're using a phone that's in itself a vulnerability,
especially
right?
Now.
Then it's not just the people at the operational level, you know, without using fancy words like operational. It's not just the people working their day jobs.
No.
What's happened at the top of the tree? Those people running the ship, those CFOs and CEOs that think, oh, I've got it covered. I've got all my threats. But surely there's only one threat they should be thinking about. There's only one threat in my head from and I'll change my mind if you tell me otherwise, is that only cyber can shut you down in an instant, make you lose revenue, lose operation, lose credibility, and therefore is a triple threat.
Yeah.
So what's happening at the top of the shop? Well, what have you seen through your career?
They trust the operational people to keep it running as it should be.
The leadership team trust the operation.
They trust. There's people in place to deal with these jobs, cyber manager, head of IT, whoever's job it is. But yeah, I think the main thing the CEO will be looking for is to understand that we have things under control, that we can see what's going on, we know how to mitigate things. They'll be looking for the higher level vision of what is going on, what do we have to worry about, is there anything I should know about? But they trust the teams to do the right thing.
Okay, so let's pick that up, right? Because in my experience, being like looking at total control environments, right, through the risks and through the information, because you've got this idea that if we can trust those cyber teams to do their job, do they have all the equipment and resources to do their job? Do they have the ear of all operational areas to ensure, and I'm going to play back some of your own words for fun, right? To ensure that those people they're building and hiring see cyber threat as the first threat. And then therefore, do they have enough information at the top of the shop to be able to make decent decisions, right? Because at some point, you've got to keep investing. And investment is time, money, and resources. Right? Whatever, doesn't matter which one of those. But you can't sit at the top of your ivory tower and say, I've got an excellent cyber team, but yet the cyber team aren't showing you enough data because they are too busy being busy, or you don't have the structures in place, or you don't have the maturity at the board level. Do they have cyber threat as their number one risk on their ledger?
Of course not.
So now I want to hear...
Why would it be? The risk that they're interested in is revenue, of business, of making other things happen.
But on top of that, your revenue will go down if your cyber threat comes in.
Of course it
your
will,
people will go
but that's
down.
only if you're breached. And if you're breached, then it's dealt with sometimes.
So we only want to deal with the fire once it's started.
Yeah, and then once it's started, it's hard to get out of.
Oh no, but you've got a forest fire and I've got a bucket of water. That's a proportional reaction, isn't it? That bucket of water is going to put out the forest fire?
Maybe for a short period of time, and then it'll ignite again, and it'll ignite hard. Of course, people have their own agendas, their own responsibilities, yeah? Like I said, the CEO has other things to worry about, and that's the truth. They do, right? The problem is, when we're shown stats that look fine and everything looks great, it makes it seem like everything is perfect and that there's no problems. However, the majority of the time, a lot of operational cyber teams are struggling. And they're struggling, exactly like you mentioned, for technology, maybe not having exactly what they need to get the job done. Lack of support from other teams and sort of a joint vision, perhaps between InfoSec teams and cyber teams, so like the risk side, the cyber side. And then just daily trying to put the fires out, keep everything under control, and trying to deal with massive volumes of alerts, not really understanding fully what to do with them, trying to no way to consolidate everything. So the reality is that cyber people are very, very passionate in what they do, right? What dents your ego and your passion more than anything is feeling like some people around you don't have that same passion and desire to understand how important it is.
Okay. So we're building that person, right?
Yeah.
Now I do want to attack the top of the shop, because as you were describing that passion, then if your operational layer is so passionate about cybersecurity, does not matter, because if your leaders aren't passionate about cybersecurity, they're just not going to listen, right? They're going to swan in, they're going to say, I've got it, let me pick some glamorous things to fix that are really easy, that make me look good, and let me just, oh, you know that data? Well, stick it in an Excel sheet, move it into a PowerPoint presentation. Let me edit the report that's now already 4 weeks old, and then let me just put some figures out there that make my shareholders stroke executive committee feel happy. And that's 3 months old already. But yet, you've got a passionate cyber team who are spending their day spinning from system to system, looking at loads of alerts.
Raising the problems, raising the concerns.
But there's not enough data flowing up, is there?
No, and I think that's a lot of the reason why perhaps people or companies won't invest in technology or won't invest in the right tooling, is because if we have the right stuff, it shows where we're at. And if it shows where we're at, there's problems.
See,
there's questions.
I've adjusted my seating because you've got me here, right?
Yeah.
So in my small career, my favourite point was, let's find some things that reveal how dirty our home is, right? Let's find out what the real metrics are that are self-assured, automatically governed, so it just comes out the machine. You don't have a time to massage it, but we also need to be in a position where you've got information coming out of your operational teams that just reveals the truth.
Exactly, and I think that's a good point, right? Let's forget about the why should we care about cyber, which we should, right? Every person, every leader should care about the truth, regardless of what you're in, right? The truth of data, everyone goes on about it. The same DB quality, the data, how can we see where things are? Data is a data world. Everyone should care about the data, so it doesn't matter what discipline you're in. Is the data for cyber correct? Is the data for finance correct? Like, what is the truth? And the reality is sometimes it's hard to find the truth, but you need to start somewhere.
Yeah, because I like your loop on that truth, right? Because if those leaders knew the truth, then they might go, well, hold on a second. We only had all of this protection in, and I've still got vulnerabilities or patches that haven't been done and that were claimed to be critical by Microsoft or by Azure, and I'm going to pretend that I know any more than that.
We're not even going into the legacy stuff.
Okay, right,
we're not even starting that
I don't know what legacy is, but so you've got all these patches. If they knew that there's a set of vulnerabilities, and there was, I think a few years back in 2019, there was a massive American company with like a several billion turnover who were given I should probably Google it, but I don't want to do that live. But they were given a list of vulnerabilities that had been identified by like their third line. And they went, yeah, we're working on them. And they chipped away, but I think they left 2 or 3.
Right.
And then they ended up in the largest ransom payout ever, $70 million US.
For leaving the 3?
They left one of those 3, and that let the cyber attack happen.
I would be so interested to know what that was, but
we
don't know at this point.
We can come back to it when we pause for a little tea break, right? Because the point is that they knew they had vulnerabilities. Their cyber team had probably said, we need to get through all of them rapidly. They took their time, and then the real pain in that story, and we don't have to dig too deep, in that story was that the company then recovered. The people who spotted the vulnerability were accredited to saying you spotted it, make sure they're given a golden badge. But the data that was lost by over 700 global companies that this company protected meant that there were thousands and thousands of people with their personal data on the dark
GDPR,
web.
PCI.
Yeah, well, they're on the dark web in perpetuity, but there's no law. The law was done. And there was even a legal case against that American company that said, well, hold on, surely these people are affected. And the law said, well, no, actually, their data's in the dark web, and you could probably prove it, but it's not being used, so no crime's been committed. And that company carried on and is now recovered. But now there's these thousands and thousands and thousands of people who could be under threat for engineered cyber threats.
I think almost all of us will be under threat at some point.
Yeah,
have you used Have I Been Pwned? It's a site, you put your email address on. I can guarantee almost everyone in this room has had their email almost compromised at one point. All of us.
So then why?
We just don't know about it.
We've gone down.
We just don't know about it.
We should probably make a movie script for that company. But somewhere in this is that connectivity between, if your operational team had enough data available through probably needing to automate things rather than having to spin around on chairs and collect things and spend their day with boring key, to then give leaders some actual information that they can't argue with, recorded somewhere so that they can't be rubbed out. And then they go, well, actually, you're right, I am vulnerable. But part of me saying, from your experience, that until somebody's actually breached it, they're not going to listen.
No.
Which is weird, isn't it? Because
even when they do, it's just throwing money in, let's just get it done. Let's just throw money in it and hope it goes away.
And it's not a long-term fix.
And what they do is they'll buy a tool or they'll buy something without actually dealing with maybe what caused it in the first place.
Hold on a sec, because there was something about tooling on my Google search, right? So you mentioned tooling, and I swear we were looking at tool overload versus real control. So I'm going to find an analogy that fits today. Imagine you had a car where you had a different operating system for your pedals, your steering, your stereo, your mirrors, your seats. But that's what I think you're saying about tooling overload, right? Because you're saying that you could have 25 tools doing little things for you all over the place, but you're going to spend more time managing them than actually getting any resource out of them.
What's the point of having cool, shiny tools if you're not even monitoring what you should be monitoring in the first place? Like, our tool says that we are 90% covered and we've got 10% to go. Okay, but what is that based on? Is that based on applications? Is it based on networks? Because, by the way, there's so much in the business we can't even identify.
I mean, it sounds like you've looked in my tool shed, because I've got loads of shiny tools with the label still on it, right? Not used them yet. But then there's a point where, what do you actually need?
Exactly.
And what is the purpose of that tool?
Exactly.
So who's making that decision?
The organisation.
But this is the same organisation we're saying that has got a head that's worried about their fancy peacock tail, their middle operational, passionate, super stressed, over enthusiastic about something that the rest of the business isn't listening to. And then all the other individuals who are just blindly walking around doing their job and hoping they don't get fished.
It's very simple. You just look at cyber regulation, and that gives you a guideline of what to follow, and it's also what you'll be audited on, right?
When did cyber become a procurement problem? Can you procure against cyber threat? Can you just keep buying and hope that you've bought enough stuff so that it doesn't happen? Right.
No, you can't.
So isn't coming back to the top of where we started, somewhere around that first stat, if 95% of your problem is people, and we've touched on the fact that data through the business isn't clear enough. We need to do something about the aggregation of information, the availability of that data to be live, untainted, raw feeling of how many vulnerabilities you've got. But we need to educate the leaders.
Yeah.
then those leaders need to be on a mission to make sure that all of their staff are educated. I certainly know that my kids will not cross the road unless they are stopped with an adult and my son, lovely guy. Well, he's all right now. When he gets older, he could be anybody.
Fair enough.
But for now, he's a nice guy. He will stop and he will tell his older sister, you need to look left and right.
Yeah.
Because they've been given a procedure to follow, which guarantees the highest likelihood of safety crossing the road.
Yeah.
Now, if my book's now entitled Getting My Kid to Cross the Road, Threats of Cyber, who's doing that for the business?
It should be the people in charge, you know, the leaders, the people setting strategy for the company. And when I say strategy and roadmap, I just mean, you know, how do we work on an operational basis? It doesn't have to be anything special or anything crazy. You know, why are we doing this? Who are we doing it for? How can we make things better? How can we proactively try and prevent these things from happening? And, you know, the reality is vulnerabilities will always be there. You can't get rid of them.
Yeah, the road's always going to be there.
This whole sort of like, why have we got so many vulnerabilities? Because we do. Because that's and see, trying to explain that sometimes, vulnerabilities exist. Yeah, but why? Because they do, and then
you can
it's
get rid of
frustrating.
them. You can get rid of all vulnerabilities eventually, can't you?
But they just come back, depending. There's new vulnerabilities every day.
I'm playing a very well-rehearsed character, but can't you just get rid of all the vulnerabilities? Eventually, there must be no vulnerabilities left, right?
No.
This is the point.
Yeah.
I'm doing the stupid senior exec person, right?
Yeah.
And they are stupid in a sense because they're going to sit there and go, "Can you just sort cyber out? Can you just make cyber go away?"
Oh, no. Is that a trick question?
Well, it must be a trick question because this less informed leader who's now come in prancing that they know how to run your business has just turned around and said to you, Bobby, sort out cyber. Hey, CISO, I know you live in the finance department because, well, I didn't know where else to put you, but can you just make cyber, can you make it finished? But this is the paraphrased idiocy that we're getting to, aren't we? If our leadership doesn't get it, if we're having to do campaigns point in time, haven't we missed the boat already?
Yeah, we have.
That person you're building needs to not stop and go, let me think. It needs to be ingrained in them.
Don't get me wrong, and this is just my opinion. Over the past 5 to 7 years, I think things have shifted a bit.
From really crap to just crap?
Yeah. But the reality is your cyber team should not have to teach the leadership team why it is important. Either it's a lack of understanding or pure ignorance.